As we start into the second part of this training, we're going to be talking about how to actually get out in the field or on the phone or online or however you're going to prospect and start prospecting for new merchants that are going to be buying your software solution. Now, I want to say very clearly at this point that you should not move forward if you are not 100% confident that you have the right vertical and that you have the right software solution where you're going to be, servicing the correct needs. So if you go all the way back to the wrong way and the right way to do it, it is crucial that we make sure we have, we're going after the right group. We're very targeted. We know what software we're going to use, and we really feel like our identity has shifted in some ways to where, in addition to being a payments expert, we also believe that we are an expert at solving one particular problem for one particular type of business with one particular software solution. So audit yourself right now. Make sure you're there, and if you are, fantastic. It's time for the next step, and that step is building your list. Building your list. Now, unlike traditional payment processing sales where the targeting is very general, okay? You're out there selling, standalone terminals. Well, if you're like me, I just picked a really busy street in my market, started at one end of the street, went to the other end of the street, walked into every business along the way. I avoided a few. I didn't go to the financial planner's office. I didn't go to, Walmart or McDonald's, but I walked into pretty much everything else and I made as many sales as I could. So targeting was not really like a major step or something that I had to think carefully about. When we're now selling software solutions, it's all about targeting. That is a really crucial key component to make sure that you're not wasting your time and that you're very targeted. I should also mention here that if you chose more of a broad vertical or broad business type, such as, retail, this would be the time where you're going to narrow the focus a little bit. So let me give you like really, really specific data information here, okay? What I would recommend is that you purchase a list, and I'll talk more about where to get it and all that in a second. I would recommend that you purchase a list of between 100 and 300 businesses that are going to be, the most ideal when looking at this target market that you're going after. So between 100 to 300 businesses that are going to fit your criteria. Now, where do you get this list? Very simple. I would recommend going to infousa.com, which is now DataAxle, and so it's going to transition you over to that. They have a fantastic way to build a list. It's a list builder. You choose looking for businesses, and you can go through there and you can set your criteria. All right. Now you can play around with it. The idea would be get your criteria where you want it, and then play around with the geography before you move forward. So the idea might be you might build a list and it might say, hey, there are, 50,000 or 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever businesses in the United States that fit these criteria. Well, the next thing you do is you then go ahead and look at the geography and say, okay, well, let's look at, within 10 miles of my, home or my zip code. And it might say, well, there's 50. Okay, let's try 20 miles. Well, there's 200. There you go, you got your list, okay? So you say, well, what criteria do I use? I can't give you that information as part of this training because it's going to be too specific to what you're doing, but you definitely are going to want to think in terms of the size of the business. I would definitely remove, in most cases, I would remove franchises, corporate and publicly traded companies, and you're really just focused on those, smaller mom and pop shops. Look at the revenue there. Again, take that revenue up as high as you think is reasonable. I certainly don't want to exclude a large potential customer through my targeting, okay? If it's a potential customer, I want to include it, all right? So when we look at the size, sometimes I'll go up to, $20 million a year in annual sales, maybe even $50 million a year in annual sales, depending on the type of, solution I'm offering. But again, it really varies a lot. You might be offering a solution that's for small auto repair shops. Well, then you're not going to say $50 million a year, So you've really got to think through this. Take some time. It's a new thing for you. One of the things I love is with DataAxle, which, formerly InfoUSA, you can just call out. They give you an 800 number. use that 800 number. It's so much easier. They don't charge extra for it. You just basically call a data expert and tell them, here's what I'm trying to target. They'll walk you through the various scenarios, talk through everything with them, make sure you're getting a clean list. And then at the end, you're going to buy a list. It's going to cost you a few $100s. It's not going to be very expensive, but I'm going to highly recommend that you go ahead and buy that list because you want to get the list that's got everything on it. You want the, contact name, the phone number, the email address, their credit rating, their revenue, their number of employees. I mean, you want all the data you can get on these companies because it's really going to be very valuable to you even as you're planning your attack. But also, it's going to be really valuable because as you reach out to these companies, unlike payment processing, you are going to want to do just a little bit of research as you move into the marketing phase of trying to generate leads, which we're going to talk about in the next video. So stop right here before you go to the next video. Get your list. You should have an Excel spreadsheet that maybe you're going to bring into a CRM or whatever you want to use on the marketing side. You should have a spreadsheet that has between 100 and 300 businesses that fit your criteria. Now you might say, well, James, I can get a list of 3,000. Should I get that? Well, knock yourself out if you want to do that. But as far as the scope of this training course, my goal is to help you get those first 10 to 20 software sales to get them under your belt. And you can always buy more later. And so what I like to do is 100 to 300 because sometimes you dive into it and you realize, you know what, maybe this was the wrong vertical and I kind of got to go back to the drawing board a little bit. So then it's nice that you didn't spend a ton of money on thousands of leads and you can go back. So I like 100 to 300 and we're going to talk in this training course about how to hit those 100 to 300 people with the most effective marketing and sales strategies possible. So let's dive into the next video to generating leads as part of your marketing campaign.